All right, so for 45, researchers studying artificial sweeteners have long claimed that the perception of sweetness is determined by the activation of a single type of receptor on the tongue called a sweetness receptor. So these researchers that have studied artificial sweeteners for this long time have said that our perception of sweetness is determined by this single receptor on our tongue. So the sweetness called the sweetness receptor. They have also claimed that any given individual molecule of substance can activate at most one sweetness receptor. So any given molecule can activate at most one sweetness receptor, and that the fewer molecules that are required to activate a receptor, the sweeter the substance will be perceived to be. Okay, so the fewer molecules that it takes to be activated, the sweeter that substance is going to, we think it's going to be. Now, the researchers claim to have discovered a substance of which only one molecule is needed to activate any sweetness receptor. All right, so we're saying like, hey, we found this one substance which only one molecule is needed to activate any sweetness receptor. And so what do we know about the fewer molecules that are needed to activate a receptor, the sweeter that substance is going to perceive to be? So I'm just going to predict here that there's going to be an answer choice that says like this newly discovered substance is going to be perceived as very sweet or something along those lines. Okay, so this is a most strongly supported. So this is going to be a top down. So A says the more sweetness receptors a person has on his or her tongue, the more likely it is that that person will find sweet sensations pleasurable. No, we don't know if there's a difference between how many sweetness receptors you have on your tongue or not, and whether that determines if you will find something sweet or not. B says insufficient quantity, the molecules of any substance can activate no, we don't know that the molecules of any substance can activate a sweetness receptor. We just know that any given individual molecule of substance can activate at most one sweetness receptor. So like if there was one individual molecule of substance, at most that individual one could activate is one sweetness receptor. We're not saying that if you had enough molecule quantities, then you could activate any sweetness receptor. Yeah, we don't know that. C says no substance will be found that is perceived to be sweeter than the substance the researchers have discovered. So I feel like I'm going to leave this one open. I wonder if my hesitation on when I go through this on C is I know that it's saying that like the fewer that are required to activate it, the sweeter the substance will be perceived to be. But what if we have two that only take one? Then could there potentially be one that's sweeter than the other? It's just like a likely thing. Like maybe one, like I'm gonna go ahead and leave C open because maybe that's not what it's alluding to. Maybe it's like the ultimate, it only takes one. D says a substance that does not activate a sweetness receptor will activate a taste. No, we don't know. We don't know that it'll activate a taste receptor of another type. And then E says the more molecules of a substance that are required to activate a single sweetness receptor, the more bitter that substance. Yeah, we don't know that if it takes more to activate the sweetness thing, that's actually what causes a bitter substance. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with answer choice C for my answer. And my reasoning is because the fewer molecules that are required to activate a receptor, the sweeter that substance will be perceived to be. Well, the bare minimum that it can take is one. And it's this one down below where we said, hey, we found this one substance that only takes one molecule to activate it. So I guess we're saying like there's no fewer number of molecules because one's as low as it can go. So that must be this ultimate level of sweetness. And so that's why our answer is going to be C.